Good morning, and thank you so much for taking the time this morning to join me for this training. I'm Thomas Heimann, and this is a presentation that I've done for several years now at various associations, and it's designed for you as a real estate professional, whether you're just starting out or maybe you've hit a roadblock and you want to break through that ceiling. And it's really about running your real estate practice as a business. Again, my name is Thomas Heimann, and I built a very, very successful team in the real estate business after coming to it from other entrepreneurial ventures. And I'm going to share with you what I have learned and best practices that I got from my coaches and mentors. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to provide you with a link where you can download all of the supporting documentation and spreadsheets and so forth to use in your business. But without further ado, let me get started. And, let's talk about, first of all, the outcomes for the session today. Number one, I really want you to understand the relationship between actions and results. Then we're going to talk about goal setting and how to establish clear and realistic targets for your business. And as we're getting ready for the new year just around the corner, this is a fantastic time to do that. Then we're going to talk about knowing your numbers. Most real estate professionals do not know their numbers, and how we're going to do that. And then that leads into planning and budgeting, because you can't do that if you don't know your numbers. And then finally, an action plan. What are the activities that are going to lead to the results that I want to create for my business? So actions lead to results. And, if you take the same actions, you're going to get similar results. And how does it really work? I mean, we all understand that, you do something and something happens, but in the context of your real estate business, how do you translate that? And there are two ways to look at it. First, I want to look at it from a perspective of, what is your potential, quote unquote. So obviously we have unlimited potential in this industry. There are agents doing literally 1,000+ transactions a year. And there are agents making 7 figures. And then there are other agents that are struggling that can't get, say, 5, 6, 7 transactions in a year. And a lot of agents just give up. And a lot of it starts with your belief system over here, your sense of certainty of what is possible. And that is going to determine in your mind your potential. What am I capable of doing? Am I really able to earn 6 figures in this business? And then that is going to lead to certain actions, and not just the type of actions, but also the quality of actions. So for example, if you have a belief system that, I have unlimited potential, I will make $500,000 a year without a problem. And to make that happen, I'm going to have to take certain action. I'm going to have to do cold calls or door knocking or whatever it might be. And I'm going to respond to internet leads because they're fantastic and they're just a gold mine. And so when you have that kind of mindset, you're going to take not only more actions. Instead of making 2 calls a week, you're going to do 100 calls a day. Instead of door knocking for 30 minutes a week and then giving up, you might door knock for 1 or 2 hours a day. And you're going to do it with enthusiasm. And what do you think is the difference between making a phone call and responding to an online lead and like, hello, this is Thomas Heimann with XYZ Realty, and I understand you're looking for something, or hi, this is Thomas Heimann with XYZ Realty, and I just would love to work with you. How can I help you? And the energy is going to also determine the results. So you can have 100 phone calls that are crappy and 100 phone calls that are fantastic. But anyhow, the actions that you take are going to lead to results, and then those results are going to reinforce your belief. So if you, for example, subscribe to online leads and you are slow on the ball and you just have, the wrong attitude, you're not standing up, you're sitting down, you don't have a smile on your face, you're just, just really boring, and you call these people, you're going to have crappy results, so it's just your belief then is going, it's going to reinforce your belief that online leads suck, Zillow sucks, this is crap, this doesn't work. And that obviously is going to then influence your potential, as opposed to, if you have fantastic results and then it's going to create a different kind of belief and certainty for you which leads to potential. So you have to be very, very, very mindful of this cycle. And another way of looking at it is you start out with a target, so you have a certain target. And so my goal this year is to take 2 listings a month. I'm going to take certain actions, and then those actions are going to lead to results. And then I'm going to measure and evaluate and say, okay, are the actions that I'm taking giving me the results that I need to hit my target? And the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same things and expect a different result. This area over here is key. You want to make sure that you measure and evaluate to see what's really happening here. And successful agents do that. Now, it all starts with a target. If you don't have a target, then you can't hit it. And, a lot of agents are just, I want to make more money. I want to make $100,000 next year, but they don't really have it quantified what that means. And so the first step in anything is the target. If you don't have a target, you can't hit the target. And so let's talk about that. What is your target? And you may have heard about the importance of goal setting. They did a study a long time ago, I believe it was at Yale University, where they took the graduating class and found out, how many of them actually had written specific goals. There was about 3% of that class. And then they went back literally 20 years later, and they found that 3% was actually, wealthier. The 3% was worth more than the other 97% put together, but they were also happier and healthier and led an overall much better quality of life. So goal setting is very, very critical, whether it's your business, your health, your relationships. And there's an acronym, SMART goal setting. You want to be smart about it. And this is so, so important. Your goals have to be specific, first of all. Okay. I want to make more money. What does that mean? $1 more is more money. I want to take more listings. I want to be a listing agent. Well, what does that mean? How many listings? So it has to be very specific, and it has to be measurable. You need to have goals that are measurable. I want to get into better shape is neither specific nor measurable, but I want to lose 25 pounds and get to X and have a cholesterol rating of below X. Those things are specific, and you can measure them. You can step on the scale every day. And the same thing is true for your business. You want to have specific goals that are measurable. And we're going to talk about what kind of things to actually focus on here in the coming minutes. And then last but not least, it also has to be attainable. So if you right now, if you've never made more than $25,000 a year, you have zero resources, you're shy, you don't want to do this, you don't want to do that, and you get into real estate, and to set yourself a goal in 2022, I'm going to make $1 million in real estate, that is most likely not going to be attainable for you. So you want to set goals that are attainable, and you want to set goals that are relevant and time bound. So in other words, you need to have a deadline for your target. So how many leads or prospects are you going to generate this month, next month, the month after that, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk about what drives your business. And, in order for you to really run a business, you need to be able to measure things. And management really equals measurement. So if you are not in a position where you have systems and processes set up where you can manage things, how many phone calls did you get? How many phone calls did you make? How many calls to get a meeting? How many meetings to get a buyer agency or listing agreement? How many, home tours to get a contract? How many contracts to get a closing, et cetera, et cetera? You have to measure all of these things. And the question is, what am I going to measure and how often? And there's this concept of critical drivers or KPIs. These are the things that drive your business. So in the real estate business, what drives your business? Well, leads, of course, prospects, clients. And so I created a spreadsheet to give you an idea what I tracked in my business with respect to KPIs. And, I tracked KPIs on both the listing and buyer side. So it starts with leads and prospects, and then appointments set, appointments held. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit so you can get a better idea. So, meetings held, what percentage did I list at the initial meeting versus next meeting, and so forth. On my listings, how many showings did I get? How many offers did I get? And, right now, of course, the market is a little bit unnormal in a sense that you take a listing and you get 20 offers, or you're working with a buyer and you write, 10 offers until you get one accepted because they all fall through with multiple offers. But these are things that I tracked in my business, and I'm going to share this spreadsheet with you later on. So you have the ability to plug your numbers in it. And again, depending where you are in your business, will determine, how detailed your tracking is going to be. If you're going to generate, 2, 3, 4, 500 leads a month, or if you're running a team, it could literally be in the thousands, then you need to have a different tracking system, a different, level of granularity than if you are just starting out. So here is a idea of what you definitely, absolutely must track in terms of KPIs. And then eventually you want to break them down by source. But the first thing is number of new leads. How many new leads do you have coming into your business? And leads are people that are not qualified. So what is a lead? Somebody submitting a message to you on social media asking about something. Somebody registering on your website, you're getting an online lead. A Zillow lead that comes in. A referral that you get at church or from a past client. They're unqualified opportunities. So a lead to me is an unqualified opportunity, and a prospect is someone that you had a chance to connect with and qualify. So a prospect is someone that you qualified, you established motivation and timing. They're not working with someone else. They're looking to make a purchase or sell their home within, I would say, the next 3 to 6 months. Okay, so that would be a prospect. And so you want to track, what's your cost per lead and what's your cost per prospect and what are your ratios? And if you have multiple lead sources, then you're going to discover the ratios between leads and prospects. So for example, if you get a personal referral from a friend, family member at church, you may find 100% conversion from leads to prospect, and maybe even 100% from prospect to customer. When it's an online lead, it looks very different. You may have 10 leads to one prospect, or 20 leads to one prospect, or 5 leads to one prospect, depending on the lead source. So you want to track that. Then you want to track customers/clients, and you want to know what is the cost per customer. So people complain about the cost of lead generation. For example, let's say you have a hot zip code within Zillow and you're paying $1,200 a month, and you get 5 leads, and those leads in essence cost you $240 each. Well, what does that mean in terms of cost per customer? If it ends up being that, it's going to cost you $2,500 to get that customer, but these are $2 million properties, so you're making $50,000, $60,000 on it, then this will be dirt cheap because you're only paying 5%. Your cost of the customer is only 5% of your transaction. So you always want to look in terms of real dollar, and then that leads us to the number of sales, which are closings, and the cost per sale. And at the very beginning, you want to track these weekly, monthly, and yearly. And I strongly suggest as you prepare for next year that you go back at least this year, 2021, going back to January 1st, to the best of your ability. How many leads did you have coming in, et cetera, et cetera. And if you don't already use a CRM system, you have to use a CRM system because you cannot track otherwise accurately what you have coming in. Again, this is running your business as a business, not as a hobby, winging it off the seats of your pants. Now, a concept that is not new to real estate, this is a business concept, and all of these things I'm teaching you are business concepts because real estate is a business if you treat it as a business. If you want to get business-like results, if you want to earn 6 figures or 7 figures, you got to run it as a business. If you treat it as a hobby, if you wing it, you're going to get hobby, wing it kind of results, okay? So the concept that I'm going to share with you is reverse engineering a path to target. So how do you get to, let's say, $200,000 a year? If your goal is to make $200,000 a year next year, how do you get there? And the first thing I would ask you is, it 200,000 gross or 200,000 net? My recommendation is to at least, look at it before taxes. So you have your target, it's $200,000, 2022. So how do you get there? The first step is you need to have a pathway to determine the GCI needed to meet your net income goal. Okay. So a lot of agents think that, my goal is to make $200,000, and then you have $200,000 GCI, and then they're surprised when, after everything is said and done, and because they're not aware of the numbers and money is leaking and bleeding, they actually end up only making 100. And it's like, what the heck just happened? I thought I was making 200. No, you didn't. So a budget is a way to determine, what is your overhead and how much do you need to make in order to achieve your net income goal. And so I created a budget here, and let me blow this up a little bit as well, because these are pretty. So, this is a sample realtor budget. And again, I'm going to share that with you, and you can plug in all of your numbers. This is a $100,000 sample budget, right? And if you look here at this example, we got $7,500 in buyer and listing commissions and some transaction fee income. You need to know all of your revenue sources. And then you have your broker split, whatever that is. If you're at a quote unquote 100% company, you still have expenses, so you might spend $500, $600, $700, $800 per transaction in transaction fees. Plus, of course, you're going to have other technology fees and so forth that maybe a broker that has a split will provide you with. But you got to look at, this is your gross income, 16,000 roughly. Then you have your cost of sales. So your broker split that comes off the top, buyer agent splits that may, if you have franchise fees, that would be part of the broker split. You have your, transaction fees that you have to pay, other fees, and that's, cost of sales, and that leads to your gross profit. So your gross profit would be the money coming into your bank account before you spend everything else. But now you have significant cost as a real estate professional. You may have office rent or desk fees. It could be a virtual office. It could be a shared office space. Maybe you're at an office where you get a private desk or office and you have to pay for that. You have your phone, you have your internet access, and these are very low figures. I personally pay, for example, $125 for my gigabit internet access. My phone bill is more than that. Any computer services. Now, if you are paying for your own website and marketing services and what have you not, you probably spend $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, $1,000 or more per month. So you got to plug all of these things in here. Insurance, maybe more than this. Automobile expenses. So automobile would be, this is really a cash flow budget. So if you're leasing your car, it's going to be that expense, any other, gas and so forth. So you want to be realistic. If you own your car free and clear, then maybe this is all there's to it. Printing, postage, obviously, you get the drift. So you want to know what is your total overhead here, and marketing expenses, payroll. Do you have a virtual assistant or not? And in this particular scenario, the total expenses per month come to $4,845. That's a marketing budget of only $2,600, which that $2,600 is only 16% of the revenue. And then you have your net profit earning before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So that 65.57 ends up being, 90, just under 91,000. But so you're not even there at $100,000. And you have your breakdown here now. What are your expenses? You have your total expenses are 30%. You have your total marketing, and it breaks down the expenses on this side. And over here you can see that out of your 100% GCI, you have only 78% as gross commission income. And then off that 8%, you pay for this, 16 for that, this for that. And so you're left with 47%. So you need to know what are your margins, you know? So out of the money that you bring in, what do you really get to keep? So here it's 47%. Now, this is probably going to be a more aggressive operation than some of you have, but I caution you because a lot of you don't take into account all of the expenses that you have in your business. And so, for instance, if you use Opcity or some lead generation program, maybe you're a Redfin partner agent, you know, odds are you're spending 30 to 35% right off the top just for the for getting that business. If you get referrals, that's 25 to 30%. If you do marketing, meaning you're spending money on Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Google AdWords, and etc. If you get busy and you hire someone else to you do the ISA services, guess what? You're going to be right back to 30, 35%. If you do it yourself, you might be able to bring it down to 15 to 20% cost. I would at least budget 20% marketing of your income. So you take that plus your broker fees, plus your car, plus your insurance, plus your phone, plus your technology, internet, cell phone, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to be at, you know, anywhere between 35 and 50% as your quote unquote overhead. And you need to be aware of that. And you can use that information once you have the awareness to determine the number of transactions that you need to reach your goal. Again, you know, we're reverse engineering from the $200,000 goal that we had to where we need to get. And I created a very simple spreadsheet for you here that you can use. It's super, super, super simple. And so you have your net income goal here. Let's make it 200,000. And your marketing and operating, let's say it's 40%. Now, just so you know, it's not 40% of, hold on. Something happened. Let me go back here. Something's off with the calculation here. So hold on one second. Okay. All right, it's working. So your $200,000, the 40% marketing and operating is not off the $200,000. It's not $80,000. Okay. This is what you're left with. This is the result. So we're reverse engineering. So what does it mean? You need to generate $333,000 in gross commission income to generate 200, because 40% of that is 133,000. If this was 35%, then you need to generate $307,000 to get there. If your income goal is 100,000, at 35%, you need to generate $153,000 to generate that income. So that is the first variable here. You need to determine how much do I really need to generate in terms of GCI based on your net income goal. So this is an awesome calculator. The formula in here is going to help you determine what your gross is needed to hit your net, okay? Let's say you think, well, my marketing and operating budget is only 25%. Fantastic. You need to generate 133,000 to hit that target. But if you're with a broker where you're on a 75-25 split or 80-20 split, plus you have other expenses, I guarantee you it's not going to be 25% because you haven't even started yet with the cost of marketing and everything else. So let's leave 40% here because that's much more realistic. So that means if you want to make $100,000, you really need to make $167,000 to get there. And so that is the first thing. You need to know your target, okay? Your target is to make 100,000 net. That translates into you need to make $167,000 in gross commission income, in GCI income. Now, what is your average transaction? So you have two variables in order to get to this here. And we want to determine what is the number of transactions that you need, because that's really the only thing that matters as far as a target is concerned. You got to translate your income goal into number of transactions. And so if your average transaction, let's say you're in Sarasota and your average transaction is 300,000, and let's say the average commission is 2.75%, and it just looks as 3% because it doesn't show decimal points here. But that means your average GCI per transaction is $8,250. So that leaves you with, you need to get 20 transactions. Now, what if your average GCI is 3.5%? Because that's what you fix on your listing agreement and or buyer agency agreement. Well, you only need to get 16 transactions to make that goal. What if your average transaction size is 250,000? Well, you need now 19 transactions. If you're a new agent, I caution you, because if you have no experience, you don't have any track record, then you want to be very, very careful what you set as your average transaction goal. And I personally would suggest you go with the average transaction volume in the MLS for your market area, because you haven't established yourself. If you're working with investors, you want to focus on the average transaction of those transactions. So if I just got my license and I'm going to set a goal, well, I'm going to become $1 million agent and my average transaction is going to be $1 million here. So I make $35,000 per transaction at 3.5% average GC. I only do 5 deals. You know what? That is a fantastic goal. But in my opinion, it's probably not realistic and attainable. And what are you going to do when somebody comes across with a $300,000 property? Are you going to say, you know what, I'm not going to work with you? Or are you going to say, well, that's not a problem because all my other properties are $2 million? I would go with the average. Now, if you've been in the business for a while, you know what your current average transaction is, and you can use that as a starting point. And if you want to make a shift, so I know, for example, a very successful agent, and she was doing very, very well, doing $6, $7, $8 million. Between $6 and $8 million was her average thing. And but she was in the Central Florida area, and she wanted to do 6 to 8 million, but fewer transactions. And so she literally focused on the St. Petersburg waterfront market area, even though it was a brand new market area for her. But she went about it very, very strategic. And she had the budget to pull it off. And, you know, that obviously affects these numbers up here. When you break into a new market, you may have some expenses that you don't have if you're established in the current market where referrals drive a lot of your business. But you want to be very realistic about the numbers. But it is a key to engineer and determine the number of transactions needed to reach your goal. So again, to reverse engineer, you need to know what your target is. You need to know what your ratios are. What are your expense ratios? What is your overhead? And you do that through a budget to determine what is the GCI needed to meet your net income goal, and net income before taxes, that is. And so once you know that, okay, in order to make $200,000, I need to make $300,000 in income, then you can look at the drivers that determine the number of transactions needed to reach your goal. And you know what? If you're a listing agent and you engineer it so you get an extra 0.5% on your listings, and you charge a $4.95 flat fee to the seller. So let's say you charge 7% plus $4.95. You obviously have more income per transaction. So you might want to, instead of using a percentage, use a dollar amount. But the income per transaction is going to determine the number of transactions that you need to have in order to meet your net income goal. So this is super, super important that you go through that exercise. So getting back to the activities leads to result, everything starts with prospecting right up here. Prospecting, prospecting, prospecting. Gary Keller, I'm not promoting Keller Williams, but Gary Keller, the founder of Keller Williams, wrote 2 amazing books that every real estate agent should read. The first one is Millionaire Agent, and it'll introduce you to the ratios there too. And if you want to know what it takes to make $1 million, and that ratio has been pretty much accurate You need to run a team. Obviously, you're not going to do 7 figures by yourself. You need to generate about 2.5 million GCI to generate $1 million in net income. So that means your expense ratios are much higher. They're more in the 65 to 70% as opposed to the 30 to 40% if you're a sole practitioner. But Millionaire Agent is a fantastic book to read. And the second one is The One Thing. And you got to ask yourself, what is the most important thing in your business right now and for most of you forever? And it's it's prospecting, because prospecting drives everything. With massive action and massive prospecting, you can generate massive momentum. If you don't do any prospecting, you don't get anything. And the reason why agents are not succeeding, and if you're having trouble yourself and you're really honest with yourself, then you're not investing enough time here in prospecting. And I talk to agents all the time and I ask them, brutally honest, just tell me, how much time do you spend up here on prospecting? And the answers range anywhere from 1 to 3, 4, 5 hours per week, when you should be spending 3, 4, 5 hours a day on prospecting, especially when you're first getting started. Prospecting leads to leads. So prospecting generates leads, leads convert to prospects, prospects convert to customers, customers generate transactions, transactions generates GCI, and that gives you the budget to invest in prospecting. So if you want to grow your business, you have to set aside a budget for marketing. And I personally suggest that you take 30%, whenever you get a check from your broker, put 30% in a savings account. So you have your business checking account and then have a business savings account, and just transfer 30% over into the savings account. And that is your marketing budget. If you're making 60 grand a year right now, or 100 grand a year, and you want to grow that, remember the definition of insanity. You're not going to grow your business. You're going to get different results if you keep doing the same thing. The first thing you need to do is look at the quality of prospecting that you do. How fast are you responding to leads? How often do you follow up with them? Do you reach out to them until they either buy or die? Do you have an amazing mindset and attitude? Do you jump up and down and listen to music before you start making your calls? These are all things that you can do to improve your ratios so that 100 leads can translate into 3 or 4 closings or 5 closings or maybe even 6 closings, as opposed to 500 leads translating into 1 closing and having a belief system that leads suck. Okay. And by the way, if you go on a group like Lab Coat Agents, for example, where, literally hundreds of thousands of realtors are members of that group, and you post the question, what do you think of Zillow leads? You're going to get the masses, because the masses don't do anything. Remember Pareto's principle, 80-20. In real estate, it's really 90-10. 10% of the agents do 90% of the business. So 90% of the agents will say Zillow sucks and it's a scam and don't waste your money and doesn't work and internet leads are horrible. And then you have those agents that are actually producing, the top producer there. I love Zillow. I will, I'm on the waiting list. I'll get anything that I can, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The same thing with other internet lead generation. So it's your mindset and how you approach these things that determines the results. But once you maximize that, once you really have a great script, you practice it, you have a great attitude, great mindset, you need to get more leads, because if you only get X leads, you're only going to generate Y results. You can't 10X your results with the same number of leads unless you really right now have a horrible way to work those leads. So first order of business is to improve your process and model the best of the best. Once you do that and you're really confident that you are doing the best that can be done, then you need more quantity. And you're not going to get more quantity if you don't get money in here into investment. If you spend $500 a month on Google AdWords, you're going to get, maybe 250, 300 leads at most, maybe 200 leads, depending on the market, depending on the targeting, maybe only 100 leads if you're looking just at waterfront, high-end areas. But, you're not going to double or triple or 10X your business if you don't spend more money in marketing. I talked to an agent a few months ago, and she told me that, she's on a team, and that team does about $40 million a year in business. So that's what, 3.5 million GCI per month. And she said, oh my God, so-and-so, the team leader, he spends $10,000 a month on marketing with Zillow. And I'm thinking to myself, $10,000 a month, that's $120,000 a year to generate $40 million in GCI. That's a bargain. I mean, what do you think? You're not going to generate $3 million in business a month by, investing $100. So if you want to grow your business, the money here, the GCI that leads to your income, the check you get from your broker, right off the top, I would put 30% in a savings account. You're like, well, but I'm just starting out, I can't afford it. Well, you can't afford not to do it. So if you're broke right now and you just get a closing, just pay yourself first, put 30% in a savings account that is not to be used for anything other than marketing, prospecting, lead generation. And so this becomes a cycle that can grow. As you grow your prospecting, you grow your number of leads and so forth. So how do you build momentum in this business? The first one is you have to cultivate multiple sources of lead generation. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. You may have an awesome idea. You may know someone at some big company that has a relocation department that sends you business. You may be with a relo firm. Maybe you're doing a Redfin partner business. Maybe you have XYZ, whatever it may be. That's fantastic, but you got to have multiple sources of lead generation, because if your business depends on just one source, you're very, very fragile and you could literally go out of business overnight. The second thing is you got to have tools to track your activities and results. So you need to have a CRM system. Which CRM? Well, the one you use is the best. So I don't care if we use ACT or I'm not going to give you any names. You need to use a CRM tool and you need to use it, which means that you actually put every single lead, every prospect, every past customer into that CRM. You have to be able to segment it by, where did they come from? What did you do with them? How much business did it generate for you? And you have to track your activities and results, which goes back to the KPIs. If you don't track it, if you're not measuring it, you can't manage it. You're just flying blind. You have to have systems in place to ask for referrals and stay in touch with your customers. And so that is both a process that, at these touch points, I ask for a referral. So when you sign a listing agreement, you ask for a referral. When you do X, you ask for a referral. When you get under contract, you ask for a referral. When you get to closing, you ask for a referral. A week after, when you check in, you ask for referrals. You got to have a process that has you, every time you want to do the same thing. And then you got to have a system in place to make sure that things don't get forgotten, and that systems could be both a drip in terms of scheduling for you, phone calls to make, reminders, emails that are sent, postcards that are sent, letters that are being sent, but you need to have a systematic process in place to ask for referrals and stay in touch with your customers. I want you to think about this for 1 second. If you have a listing opportunity, a listing appointment, odds are that seller was a buyer once, unless they inherited the property, and they probably worked with an agent. If that agent had done their job, if all agents would really do their job, if they would do these things, you would never have a listing opportunity. But the truth is 99.9% of agents don't. And if you've been in the business for a while, just look in the mirror and ask yourself, how often do you stay in touch? How often do you pick up the phone? How often do you connect with them? How often do you offer assistance and help? And how often do you ask for referrals? One customer could easily translate into 3, 4, 5 referrals if you ask for referrals. Most agents are timid. They don't ask for referrals. They go all the way through closing and never once asked for a referral. They get referrals by accident because the customer thinks about it and sends someone to them, not because they're asking for it. So you can't be a secret agent. You have to ask for referrals, and you got to have a system in place to do that. Next, you have to invest time and resources, i.e. money, in continuous education. Earners are learners and leaders are readers. So when I got started in the real estate business, I joined the Craig Proctor organization, And I think for 3 or 4 years, I went to every Craig Proctor Super Conference that there is. I got exposed to Tony Robbins back in 1990. The first event I attended with him was a one-day sales event called Mastering Motivation Techniques, and then I went to see his first weekend seminar, which at that time I finally could afford. It was in 1995, and I kept, as I grew, reinvesting. I probably invested, without exaggeration, about $150,000 in personal development. So you want to take advantage of continuous education opportunities. You want to go to the the Realtor Convention, the Florida Realtor Convention, the National Realtor Convention. You want to go to training opportunities that you have. You want to take advantage of every single opportunity that presents itself. Invest time in that. And I still do that today. I'm not selling real estate anymore, but I'm committed to learning. So when I see an opportunity to attend an event, whether it's virtually, now with COVID, or in person, of course, things are now getting better. So pretty soon we're going to attend in-person events again. I go there. And then last but not least, you want to model success. So as you can see down here on my sheet, model success. So you want to model success and follow into the footsteps and recipes of people that have gone before you. And within real estate, because it's so hyper local, you can find superstar agents in other markets that are more than willing to share their secret sauce, their magic. And YouTube is a great resource. You don't have to invest thousands of dollars in training programs. All you need to do is go to YouTube and just find a handful of successful leaders and see what they have to do. And one person I really respect a lot, Pat Heimann. It's Hiban. He used to have a podcast. He's now moved on to other things. But if you Google Pat Heimann interviews real estate rock stars, there are literally a couple of hundred interviews, about an hour long each, that he has done, video interviews. You can see them on YouTube and on Facebook, where he is interviewing, the top agents in their fields in different markets. And you'll just be amazed at the creativity of how these people are generating their business, and then are providing documentation, et cetera, to help you duplicate their success. So you want to model success. There's no need for you to reinvent the wheel. Let's talk real quick about time management, because this is the one resource that we all have an equal amount of. So whether you're doing $1 million a year in business, or 10 million or 100 million, we all each only have 24 hours of time each day. And you need to get in the habit of time management. You have to manage your time. And here are two different charts that both say the same thing. And the 4 types of areas that you deal with are stuff that is important and urgent. Obviously, you have to deal with it, crisis situation. Then there's stuff that's urgent and not important. This is where, a lot of people spend their time on. Then you have stuff that is not urgent, but important. That is the green zone. That is where you want to be, in the not urgent, but important stuff. That means thinking ahead, planning ahead. And then number 3, of course, is the stuff that is neither urgent nor important, where the vast majority of people is spending boatloads of time on, spending 2, 3, 4 hours a day watching television, being, for 2, 3, 4 hours a day on social media, looking at crap that has absolutely nothing to do with your business. Now, if you're on social media posting videos, posting content to generate awareness and responding to inquiries, that is one thing. But if you're on social media just being entertained, that is a total waste of time. So you want to be here in this not urgent, but highly important area of the quadrant. So here's some tips and tricks. Number 1, you want to create daily rituals. Number 2, you want to have a journaling system and a planning system. Let me take my picture out of here. You want to determine your daily top 3. I mentioned that One Thing book that Gary Keller wrote. I highly recommend you read it. But when you plan your day, whether you do it the night before and the morning off, What are the top 3 things that you need to get done, and complete them first? And I suggest don't look at social media, don't look at email until you have your top 1 completed, okay? You don't want to be getting sucked down into your email or social media first thing in the morning, because it's going to waste time and you will not get your top thing done. So eat the frog first, focus on your top 3 and make sure you complete the first one before you do anything else. Practice chunking. What is chunking? You create daily time blocks of similar tasks, okay? So if you, for example, check your email or check your social media or post things or work on advertising or follow up with past customers or do buyer showings, you want to chunk them together. So you have time blocks where you have maybe a 3-hour time block where you do your your buyer showing, listing appointments, whatever it is. Then you have time blocks for prospecting and follow up. So you want to chunk like tasks together, because you're going to be a lot more efficient when you stay focused on one activity as opposed to bouncing forth and back between different stuff. And they did studies on that. Multitasking is super inefficient. It takes you about 30 minutes to mentally switch gears and recover from your last task to get into the new one. So if you're going forth and back, you think you're super efficient because you're busy. Most people think that activity equals results, but you just being busy doesn't mean you're being efficient or effective. If you're making phone calls and answering the phone while doing your bookkeeping, while doing your advertising, that does not work. So you want to stay focused, use chunking. Most important of them all, you need to schedule weekly time to work on your business. So you may be super busy and you're highly efficient, but you're in your business. You're responding to things, you're doing things, you're in the grind, you're a hamster on the wheel, and you need to set time aside each week, even if it's just an hour. Grab your journal, go to Starbucks or somewhere else. I put my phone on airplane mode. I turn everything off. There are no interruptions. If I go to Starbucks, I leave the phone in the car, and then I just focus working on the business. Just reflecting what's going on. What can I do differently? What can I improve? How can I do things better? How can I create more value for my customers? What else can I do to generate clients? I'm already doing everything. No. What else? What could I do? And again, if you watch things like Pat Harban interviews real estate rock stars, your memory will get jogged. All of a sudden, oh my God, I can't believe these people are doing X and are generating these results. So you need to schedule time to work on your business. And last but not least, you also need to schedule time for yourself and your family. Why do I say schedule? If you had a $10 million listing appointment, okay? So right now, if you had a listing appointment to go take a $10 million listing, all right? And it's going to be, it's Friday. It's going to be today at 4 p.m. You're all prepped. So you figure, from 3 to 4, you're going to prep for that. And at 4 o'clock, you're going to be there. And you're going to be there from 4 to 6 o'clock to take this listing. Are you going to let anything interfere with that? What if somebody calls you and is like, I want to see your, this property at XYZ Street. Can you meet me at 4:30? Of course not. Are you going to answer your phone while you're at the listing appointment to deal with something? Of course not. You let it go into voicemail. You're focused, okay? That is a sacred time block because it's super important. You're about to take a $10 million listing. So likewise, the time that you schedule to work on your business and the time that you schedule for yourself and your family has to be sacred. Nothing, not even a $100 million client can interfere or invade that time block. And that's why you got to block it on your calendar, and you need to turn everything off and let nothing intrude. Otherwise, what is this all for? Working on your business is critical to grow your business and get out of the rut and get out of the rat race. And who are you doing it for? Do you want to kill yourself and then have a heart attack at age 50, 55, and you never get to see your family? And then, things are going to fall apart and you have a crappy quality of life? No. So you have to schedule things. If you don't schedule it, it's not going to happen. Tony Robbins says that when you talk about things, it's just a dream. When you write it down, it becomes a possibility. When you schedule it, then it's real. So you want to get in the habit of scheduling things. Super, super, super important. Now, I created a Google Drive folder, and you can get to this. It's very important that it's case sensitive, and you can reach out to me, message me as well if for some reason you can't get it to work, but I tested it. It works. It's www.bit.ly and then /boost docs, and it's very important. It's capital B, lowercase OST, capital D, OCS, just as it is here. And at that folder, we have a PDF copy of this presentation. There's a business analysis document. There's a real estate budget planner, plus. There's even more than is on here. So everything that you need to plan and run your business is here. And in closing, I just want to remind you that you have an unlimited opportunity. You truly have an unlimited opportunity in real estate. Again, there are people that are struggling, and then there are other people that are just like you and I that are earning 6 figures, 7 figures, even 8 figures in real estate. So only you determine how much or how little you will get. You got to be a sole practitioner that's doing it part-time, that only does 3 deals a year to finance your vacation. That's perfectly fine, but don't complain that you can't do better, because you can. You could be a sole practitioner doing 20 deals, 30 deals a year, 40 deals even. You could be a team leader. You could do 100, 200, 500, 1,000 deals a year. You can build an expansion team. There's no limit in terms of how far you can go. If you treat your business as a business, because this is what it is, it's a business, okay? It's not a job. Nobody owes you anything. It's not a game. It's not a hobby. It is a business. And if you treat it as a business and take care of your business, then your results are going to reflect your commitment. Now, if you're starting out or you feel you don't have something, I got to tell you right now that resourcefulness is much more important than resources, okay? So never ever get into this storyline of, if I only had X, then I would do. Resourcefulness is much more important than resources, and your willingness to actually do things. If you have 0 money, call on FISBO, go door knocking, drive Uber if you need to get some extra money, and talk up the people that you drive. You never know who you might land as a customer. So resourcefulness is much more important than resources. And last but not least, I thank you so much for taking the time to join me. You can reach out to me. Let me just blow this up one more time. On Twitter, you can follow me, ThomasHeimann.com. Instagram, which is the platform I use the most now, is at Thomas Heimann. So be sure to follow me on Instagram. I also have a website, ThomasHeimann.com. And you can email me, thomas@thomasheimann.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any thoughts, if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and post on wherever you're seeing this. I'm streaming this to Facebook and YouTube and wherever else. So please feel free to leave your comments, ask any questions that you have. If you can't find the resource document library, which is again bit.ly/boost docs with a capital B and capital D, reach out to me. I'll put a comment into, I'll answer your post with it. And again, thank you so much for taking the time. I know time is our most valuable asset. I'm most glad that I was able to present this to you. Hopefully you get something out of this. And if you follow these action steps, and again, on the folder, you're going to have a PDF of the entire presentation, you will achieve results. We are in a fantastic business. Don't get distracted by, new business models are going to put us out of business, blah, blah, blah. You know what? They will succeed, and that's fine. And even if they end up taking half of all the transactions, the truth is there will simply be fewer realtors. As a successful realtor in the future, margins will shrink and you will do more transactions empowered by technology. And the lessons here in this training to set yourself up as a business are the first step in that direction, and you can be super, super successful. And even if you're already successful, let's say you're doing $10, $20 million a year in business right now, there is another level. You don't have to be stuck. So follow these processes and you will have fantastic results. And I appreciate you taking the time to join me. Again, I'm Thomas Heimann, and thank you so much. Bye-bye.